Good evening, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, Friday night, Anthony DiMaggio. I call this podcast the Psych Report. Let's go over the psychological evaluation given to Anthony DiMaggio by the IMA Clinic, written by the Crooked Shrinks, as he calls them. But according to sources who have experienced the same exact thing as Anthony DiMaggio with this clinic, they are crooked. They are crooked for sure. Anthony DiMaggio, folks, help me welcome us Friday. This is probably the most hated podcast that I do. Most hated podcast episode I do probably all week. Good evening, Michelle. Good evening. How you doing? Anthony, good evening, good afternoon, or good evening, good morning. I don't know what time it has been a crazy, hectic week for me. But tonight, you sent me over the psychological reports. I posted them. I did tell people to, go over them if they wanted to have questions or, comments about them. And we're going to go over them so people can ask you. And you're going to kind of give a breakdown of the reports, the different pages here, and tie it to what's happening here in the city of Yonkers, because this is important. Again, as I say, a lot of people really don't know. A lot of people are just now opening their eyes to this stuff. So this is good that we talk about it. They can actually see what it looks like. That report you've been speaking of. So I'm going to bring it up here.
Before you do that, though, why don't we? I wanted to take a minute to explain to everybody why it is that they do this. What role that this clinic plays in, Mike Spano's self-preservation efforts, his political self-preservation efforts. People like John Mueller. What value a report like this gives them, and then you'll understand why they have to keep a clinic like this in contract, ready and willing to take orders at the drop of a dime. Right? Why it's so A1 critical, right?
And it's not just really quick. It's not just Mueller, and I want to say it's
right
every department, right? Really, because there's cases in different departments. So,
there are DPW guys that have been done in by this clinic. It's the city that has the contract with this department. It's not just the police department,
right?
It's the city that has the contract with this clinic, and every department can use it. So the pattern, in the investigating that I've done over the past, couple of years or whatever, is that the pattern seems to be that when people who are steamed up or who are either made guys or connected guys with the Spano crime family, a lot of them like to be bullies, like Louis Venturino. And, when they target somebody, they'll target them for harassment or bullying in the workplace or whatever it is. And, at some point when the person starts to fight back, well, they find themselves in front of this doctor or these doctors up at this clinic. It's how the city tries to block lawsuits. It's how they punish people for speaking out against nepotism and, just things like workplace harassment and general corruption. If people have a gripe and they're a little too vocal about it, they're probably going to end up at this clinic. That's the pattern that I've noticed. And but with me, I don't think that this was John Mueller's initial plan with me. He, like I said, he got internal affairs involved and, in a very one-sided way, came all after me, completely disregarded anything about Louis Venturino. And they used my daughter's mother to set up this whole big, career destruction mission. Whatever his goal was, whether it was going to be ruin my career, stuff me on a desk, whatever it was, I'm sure I'll never know now. Because when I made it clear that I had gotten wind of the plot and I showed up to internal affairs with an attorney, he had to call an audible and switch to this play. Now, I sent you something that we showed very briefly on one of the podcasts that we did. We was going back and forth with Keith Olson about the Montero lawsuit.
Well, I was also really quick going to say that, I think also from sources that have reached out to me, and have said that one of the things also that they didn't like was that you uploaded a lot of this stuff to, I guess there's like a mainframe cloud. And I only say that because that kind of fits along with the pattern of from people with other departments, right? People who have complained about whether it be nepotism or the corruption, things that are going on here, complained about certain individuals that are connected, right? And then done it in a public manner or to, maybe an independent outside investigator. This has gotten them, in this situation. And so that's what I was told. So they didn't like that. Maybe that's not all, but I know something that they didn't appreciate.
I'm sure they didn't like it, but it wasn't. That's not why they sent me to this clinic. This clinic plays a very, very critical role in lawsuit equation disruption. And that's what I just sent you. Let's take a look at that. I've tweaked this equation since we last showed it. There was something I didn't like about it, and I identified what it was, so I changed it. And if we take a look at it, it'll make a lot more sense.
Yeah, but which email are you talking about? You have two here.
I sent you the one that says the equation.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let me just get it here. Well, I say that because that's kind of what they don't want, right? They don't want to be exposed. They don't want, this kind of stuff being put where other people can see, right? So
they don't want any kind of, any kind of unconnected person saying, having an attitude of, to hell with Louis Venturino and who he is and who his friends are. I don't care. I don't like what he did. And that's it. So you can't take a stance like that. You know what I mean? You're going to get punished for it. But, okay. So in the interim between when they sent me an email telling me I had to go down to internal affairs and when I actually showed up, there was a 5-day window. During that 5-day window, I made what I guess you can call in hindsight a big mistake, is I let them know how obvious it was what they were doing, that they were setting me up. Timmy Hodges had already tipped me off, told me what they were doing. They hadn't heard the voicemail that this moron left me, so I played it for them. I sent it to them down to internal affairs, where he's basically saying these wild things and threatening me with some game that's going to be rigged. And so when I show up with an attorney, right? Because also in the interim, we read that long email where I sent to Mike Koch, who was the union president at the time. You're a sellout. Stay home. Don't even be anywhere near internal affairs when I go down there on was it a Tuesday or Thursday? I don't remember. And so now Mueller has lost control of the situation, and I brought an attorney. So he sees he's not a moron. He's completely out of his mind. Okay, he's Nuck Smith. He's Screwball Jones, but he's not a moron. He knows he's about to get sued, and he knows that he probably can't afford another lawsuit like the Montero one, where he basically dodged liability because he begged the court for qualified immunity, which they gave him. But like me and Keith Olsen were going back and forth about.
Yeah, I was going to say that was that.
In my opinion, that's politically enough to rule him out from promotion to upper management. Okay, you can't go into court and say, "Well, yeah, okay, just give me immunity for what I did." Because you're admitting that you did it. Inherent to that plea is an admission of guilt. That's in my opinion and in a lot of people's opinions. All right. Now, Keith felt differently, but the record is the record. Yeah. And this is what Mike Spano was worried about. All right. So after Montero versus City of Yonkers, Spano goes ahead and makes his moron the commissioner anyway. And he's got this baggage with him. So when he sees that it's about to happen again, less than 4 months into his tenure, they have to start attacking the equation, my capability to even bring a lawsuit into the courtroom, because they can't win on the facts. It's over with. It's done. I got the voicemail. I got first deputy chief of the department behind me telling me I'll be there for you, whatever you need. I got all these emails. Okay, I got the timeline of events, which shows things clearly. He's lost. This case is over the second it gets into a courtroom. So he has to take steps to make sure that it doesn't even get into the courtroom. And this is how they do it, right?
Right.
Now, this is a simple, oversimplified little equation that I put together, right? On the fly, I did this. Now, look at that top line there. Not all those green boxes on the top, right across the middle, right? If you have sufficient facts, which I clearly do, if you have the right to seek a judicial review or sue, etc., which I do. At the time, I did anyway, and I still do. Plus, you have the steady income to pay the attorneys, right, to wage the war. Then what's going to happen is, on the other side of that equal sign, is Mueller loses a catastrophic lawsuit less than 1 year into his tenure as police commissioner. Mike Spano looks like a complete moron for having appointed him in light of what happened in Montero versus City of Yonkers. He's going to have to do some explaining. Right. Why did you pick this numbnuts? Why did you make this guy the police commissioner knowing how he behaves with his employees?
Right.
Okay? And then the obvious answer to that question is going to be, well, because we took money from Keith Olsen to make him the police commissioner. We didn't really make him the police commissioner. Keith Olsen did. We just sold the pick to Keith. You know.
And you mean through the Empire Strategic Planning payments with the union fees?
Right. So if this happens, if this goes through and makes it to a courtroom quickly, you know, Mueller's ship is going to be sunk before it leaves the harbor. And Spano is going to have an enormous political catastrophe on his hand. So they have to attack this equation. Now, this is where the doctor comes in. Because when we look at Article 72, it's the only law in any of the civil service law that I know of, or any of the any ways that you can punish a cop. It's the only way, because it's so poorly written, it's the only way that they can avail themselves of a reason to remove me from the payroll indefinitely. Okay, there's no language in the civil service law that puts a time period on how long they can remove you from the payroll. If they can get a shrink to say that you shouldn't go back to work, well, on its face, what they're doing is they're putting you out of work because the shrink says you're too dangerous to go back. And as a side effect, they don't have to pay you because they're not getting anything out of you. But in reality, what's going on is what they're going after is the side effect. They're going after the indefinite suspension of your direct deposit,
right? Because
that's how you're paying the attorney, and that's where the doctor comes in, right?
Yeah, they're trying to leave you, you know, in a financial hardship,
right?
Can't afford.
So somebody up at Corp Counsel must have taught the clown face creep this trick a long time ago. You know, if you're going to be going after people, you better at least be good at it and know how to cover your tracks. So they keep this clinic that will give them what they need at the drop of a dime. And then what they do is, after they get the report back, they say, okay, you're on administrative leave. You're not suspended without pay yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to send you a stipulation and you're going to sign it. Or we are going to suspend you without pay. Okay?
Right. So they leverage the report that you're going to show to try and get you to sign this document.
Right. And at the time that they send you the stipulation, all three of your variables here are in the green. Okay? You're ready to go as far as a lawsuit. But what they do is they send you a stipulation that tries to force you to, you know, voluntarily, quote unquote, voluntarily toggle off that middle variable,
right?
The right to seek judicial review. They want that in the red and they want it there permanently. And they tell you, basically, right in the stip, if you don't sign it, then we're gonna go after the other variable, the one that we do control. We're gonna suspend you without pay.
Your job, right?
Indefinitely. Okay. And once they do that, then the clock starts on 1 year. Once you're out for a year, well, they're not getting anything out of you. The civil service law says that they can fire you. So they completely misuse these laws to stay on offense, to keep themselves on offense in an effort to prevent someone who has a catastrophic lawsuit against them lined up from ever getting it into the courtroom.
No, I mean, they definitely learn how to manipulate these laws, right? That's what they're good at.
Yeah, absolutely. But they need the reason to attack that third variable of the equation. That's where the doctor comes in. So whatever it was that Mueller was planning on, remember, he wasn't really planning on doing this, I don't think, because he left me on the street the whole time. And if you're going to fake concerns about a person's psychological stability, well, you're supposed to go ahead and take the precautionary measure of taking him off the street. Because remember, now you're thinking that he's too dangerous to work.
Well, maybe they were trying to figure out what to do with you.
Well, that could be. But usually once the commissioner gets internal affairs involved in something, he already knows where he wants it to go. Like I said, internal affairs doesn't make recommendations. They don't do real.
Well, you're just not any police officer. Also, though, you know, your family's, you know, knows the Spanos very well. You know, you guys have a history together,
right?
So that, you know, they have to take time. Like, we're gonna do with this guy. He's not just, you know.
And the other thing that invoking Article 72 of the New York State Civil Service Law does for them immediately, okay, is that it triggers an appealable process that you have to exhaust before you can even file a lawsuit. So even if this doesn't work out for them in the end, this big scam, which I can tell you right now it's not gonna, it buys them an enormous amount of time. Because say they invoke Article 72 and then you try to file a lawsuit. You go into the court, the judge is going to say, well, you still have you can appeal what they did. So go exhaust that process before we're going to entertain any lawsuits.
Right.
So they desperately need into Article 72. Desperately. I mean, their political careers might, you know, they control the media around here. So even if I did sue this idiot and win, probably wouldn't be a headline anywhere.
Right.
But it might be. You know what I mean? Who knows? They don't want to take the risk. So they have to get into Article 72, and the report is how they do it. So go ahead. If you want to start getting into the report, we'll get into
Yeah.
it. By the way, I've gotten some incredible reviews about the report since I posted it a couple of days ago. People have reached out to me who've been following the podcast and stuff, and it's just like, oh my god. Some people said to me, "How do you look at her? How do you even look at her?" My daughter's
they're
mother.
talking about the mother of your
Yeah,
daughter.
sure.
Yeah,
And
I can see why they'd say that.
You know, because I love my kid more than I hate anybody else. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You don't want to hate anyone, even when they do things to you.
Well, you know what I'm saying. More than I have negative emotions towards other people, my love for my daughter outweighs all that. So I do what's best for her, and what's best for her is for her to see her parents getting along. You know,
Absolutely.
So I don't really feel like reading it. I've read it a million times. If you want to go ahead, if you have any questions, you know, or I'll jump in and say things where I think it's important.
All right, back. I'll go into background information. The employee is a 37-year-old single male. He has one child. He lives in Yonkers. He is employed by the city of Yonkers as a sergeant. Did they get that wrong? Or you're a lieutenant, right?
Yeah.
That's a mistake number one. That voids the whole report, I think. Start date of employment was in January 7th. Length of time employed was 13 years. Is it 15 years or 13? He drove.
At the time, it was probably about 14, yeah.
Okay, because I always say 15. I just want to make sure I'm right. He drove himself to the evaluation today. He currently resides with his mother and father. The child does not live with him. The child lives with the mother. The mother.
That was false at the time. I didn't live with my parents at the time. You know,
right? You had your house.
He's just making shit up, right?
You had your
and you'll see that over and over and over again throughout the report.
The mother and father have been separated some time. They have a tumultuous relationship. Yesterday, the mother of his child, who is another detective as well for the Yonkers Police Department, filed an order of restraint against him to stay away from her and their child. This is a stay away order after continued harassment by Mr. DiMaggio. There is a court date next Tuesday. So you have that. Do
you remember the podcast that we did about that?
Right. And you actually went to go pick your daughter up and everything.
Do you remember what the clown face creep did? We'll do a whole nother podcast on that. We'll do it again because it's so important.
Right. Okay? They set you up so you can go over there and then, they can say you were violating the order, stay away order.
He planned it and orchestrated the filing of that family offense petition specifically so it can appear right where it does on page 1 of this report. Because the doctor had no ammo to fail me. You know what I mean? Very little.
And even that, they still have to. There have been indications of reviewing the records that he threatened to harm the mother and another of the mother's children, who is not his biological child, when she was planning to take their daughter to Puerto Rico. When we spoke about that, to visit family after the Hurricane Dorian. He made comments that he would hold her son, who is not his biological child, in collateral if she is putting his child in harm's way. No. And so again, that's reading that, I know that that's your personality, right? You would say that, but I don't think you would mean that.
We did a whole podcast on that one comment, and people asked me, well, why? I said, well, because.
Go ahead, I'll finish, and we'll get to that.
No. So the reason we did that podcast on the Hurricane Dorian is because I know that we're going to get to this report at some time, and I want you to see it because, like any competent scamster, this quack mixes truth with lies. It's like that scene from The Exorcist. Remember when both priests, they're getting ready?
That's how you create a good lie.
Right. And what's his name? Father Merrin, was it? Yeah. Tells Father Karras, the demon will mix lies with truth to confuse us. And that's what this guy does. That's what any good scam artist is going to know, how to mix truth with lies to throw people off, and then they don't know which is which. Now, look at the convenient mistakes, because this is another pattern that you'll see over and over again throughout the report. To visit family after Puerto Rico. Now, the reason I have things boxed off in red and numbered in red is because on my computer, and even in a printout right here that I have right in front of me, I have corresponding notes. So I did all that with a paint program. Right. So you'll see to visit family, I boxed it off number 6. Why did I do that? Because it says specifically in the text messages that they sent to this doctor, she specifically says, because I asked her if she was visiting family, she specifically says, I'm not planning on it. So he just made that up.
What was she going there for? Just a vacation?
Yeah, just to soak up some sun with nothing but a hurricane on the forecast.
So why does that make a difference?
Because it's showing that he's not paying attention to anything, and he's just writing whatever comes to his head. He's trying to make it sound like here's this evil man, making these wild comments just to try to disrupt her harmless, family vacation to Puerto Rico to visit relatives.
Well, I mean, regardless if she was visiting family, I mean, I don't want to, get with the games of semantics or whatever, but whether it's family or she's going to soak up the sun, the concern is still the same. You're concerned about this hurricane.
Right. Right. But he's trying to make me sound evil. So
right. I thought that you're right, humanizing, like making like, oh my gosh, she's trying to see her family, you know.
exactly. Now
She's
what
not
Joan
just
is
going
saying
there
here,
to go take a to sunbathe, right?
now what Joan is saying here, this is the next thing I'm going to get to. So see how he says after the hurricane, right? Now that might seem like a little mistake. That's not a little mistake. That's intentional because what he's doing is he's changing the time frame of the incident of the comment to completely rob it of its context, to
Right.
completely rob the explanation of the entire reason that I said it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Did you ever like question him
It's
about that and say, hey, in your report it says after, but it was
no, I
prior?
never
It was
talked to this idiot again. And believe me, they took every measure possible under the sun to keep him away from his stand. They're not going to let this guy take the stand. When the
oh
time
man,
comes.
you just give him a call, say, hey man, you got this wrong over here, you know.
Even though I tell him everything, even though I basically submitted this document that we're going over to them with everything marked off, with all my notes about it, they're still not going to let this idiot anywhere near a stand
Right.
because it's the entire report is just full of these mistakes. But the reason that we went over that Hurricane Dorian situation is so you can see, how he mixes truth with lies in the report.
I'm going to move down to psychiatric history. He denies any inpatient psychiatric treatment. He says for outpatient psychiatric treatment, he goes in Riverdale. He sees a private psychiatrist. He started 4 years ago he reports symptoms of OCD, and he says the symptoms diminished after a few months of treatment. He is still on medication for this. He sees a psychiatrist now 4 times a year. Medication is fluoxetine, 125 milligrams daily.
Right. So as I told you in another podcast that we did, I've had OCD since I was 13 years old. Tends to get worse with age. So when I was 35 years old, I actually started taking medicine for it. And a psychiatrist has to prescribe that kind of medication to you.
Right.
I don't do therapy.
I'm sorry. Can you subpoena him?
That's coming.
Yeah.
Well, there's going to be a rumble. That's for sure. There's going to be a rumble in the courtroom. You know what I mean? A legal rumble. That's
right. Yeah. You got to make sure you clarify that.
That's the kind of thing they like to use against me, right?
Yeah.
So I once every 3 months I get in contact with the doctor, usually through FaceTime, and he's like, what's going on? Anything new in your life? No, not really. Okay, we bullshit a little bit, and then he sends me a new prescription for fluvoxamine, not fluoxetine.
Oh,
okay,
yeah. Well, that's how it is nowadays. A lot of people are seeing therapists and psychiatrists through Zoom and stuff now. And you were so traumatized, it's difficult to get a psychiatrist. They can't take any more people. Unless they want to fire you.
Another one of those very convenient mistakes he makes there. See, I take fluvoxamine. So he says, what do I take? He says I take fluoxetine. You know what fluoxetine is?
Yeah. No.
Fluoxetine is Prozac. That's the lab name for Prozac. Prozac is the brand name. Okay. He says I take 125 milligrams daily of fluoxetine. Now, what's the problem with that? What's the problem with getting the medicines wrong?
Well, because it's two different diagnoses, right?
Okay. Fluoxetine, Prozac, is not FDA approved for the treatment of OCD. Fluvoxamine is. Fluvoxamine is a first-line treatment drug medicine for OCD. Now, the big problem with it is that, and I said this right in the notes that I ended up submitting to the city later on, as if this guy's really a legit mental health professional, he should know that if I were taking 125 milligrams of fluoxetine daily, that I would be bedridden and foaming at the mouth because you can't take 125 milligrams of fluoxetine. Okay, it's a much heavier drug. They prescribe it to people. It's usually prescribed to people for things like depression and stuff like that.
Right.
Rarely
right. Prozac is usually out here for depression, not OCD.
Right. No, not at all. And it's prescribed in much lower dosages because it's so much more, it's so much heavier of a drug, so much more powerful. I guess that must be the reason that they prescribe it in lower dosage. The therapeutic range for that drug, fluoxetine, is somewhere in the area of between 40 and 80 or something like that, milligrams. Okay. For fluvoxamine, it's between 100 and 300. So 125 milligrams of fluvoxamine is a much lower dosage, is a much, it's much safer to take 125 milligrams of fluvoxamine than it is of fluoxetine.
Yeah, I was going to say here it says maximum daily dose is 80 milligrams.
Of fluoxetine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you're Googling it. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I just want to look it up real quick.
Right. And that's a very high dosage. So if I was taking 125, I wouldn't be able to walk.
Right.
My nervous system would be shot.
Right.
So it's a mistake that seems like a mistake, but it's a little bit too convenient
Right.
because it exacerbates the reality of the situation and makes it sound much, much worse.
Yeah, and I think, I
Right.
mean, I would think overall too, the fact that this doctor made so many, mistakes that it would just invalidate his report. Like, I mean, you're not even this is not legitimate. You can't even get the medication right. You can't get details right.
There's nothing legitimate about it, but all they buy is the diagnosis. Do not
And
return to work. That's
and
it. They don't care.
if you had a union that a union president that really supported you, this is an argument they should have been making for you, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So I just question real quick. If there are so many mistakes, how is it valid? Right. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy how they were able to use this legitimately get you to terminate you with so many errors.
Actually, no, they can't. It's not even a legitimate termination. We'll get to that towards the end of the
Well,
podcast. But yeah, right.
what they say anyway. So you want to go to the next one?
Yeah, good.
Medical history, medical hospitalization in high school. He had a cyst removed at St. John's, and that can make you a little psychotic, right?
No.
Just kidding, just joking. No chronic medical conditions. Current medication: he takes an unknown prostate medication. Sure, should have blacked that out. And that
No,
same.
I take
I'm kidding.
finasteride for its. I take finasteride. It's a prostate drug, but I have nothing wrong with my prostate. They prescribe it. They prescribe it because it has a side effect of lowering DHT levels in the scalp.
Oh,
So
okay.
it lets you keep your hair.
I'm going to keep it moving. He reports drinking 2 beers 2 times per week socially. That's not bad. He denies any alcohol abuse. He reports smoking marijuana in high school. He denies any habitual use. He says there has been 1 major motor vehicle accident when he was 19 years old. He reports some minor moving violations in the past. Legal history. Child Protective Services have never been called. Current legal problems. Yes, his firearm has been removed. He has been placed on desk duty. He also has an order of protection that was recently filed, a stay-away order in regard to the mother of his child, who is also another detective, and their child. Family history denied. Well, let's just stop right there. Well, I see you have also another, also another in red there. But let's go to the top there. You had a cyst removed in St. John's. Is that wrong? Was that the wrong hospital? Oh, St. John's University. It was
He says St. John's University. I told him St. John's Hospital.
Okay.
So I'm just, some mistakes are more important than others, but it just goes to show you that he's not paying attention to anything that I'm saying.
It's so that also goes to show that he was going in there already with a predetermined, agenda. He knew what he was going to do. It didn't care, right? Yeah. Well, you were an experiment. And then unknown. He didn't know the medication. You didn't.
Of course he did. I told him, but again, he just didn't listen. He didn't care.
And then dosage of the medication. He didn't care. You probably told him about that also, right? And then who is also another detective? Why'd you?
Yeah, I don't know because it's almost as if he's saying that I'm a detective or something like that. So,
okay.
But what other detective is he referring to in the report?
Got you.
I don't get it. It's like he just making shit up.
Family history, he denied. You denied to talk about your family history?
No, of course not. He didn't ask.
And then you talked about your military time from the Air Force from 2002 to 2006. No active combat, honorable discharge. Right. He reports normal sleep and normal appetite. He denies any symptoms of depression. He denies any suicidal thoughts. He denies any homicidal thoughts. However, there is evidence in material review that there was homicidal thoughts in the past. In a text a few days ago, an appointment was set up with another psychologist from IMA. And he wrote in a text that he would lay, I remember this, lay law to the land.
Can you put us to the side, our pictures?
Oh, yeah. He would lay law to the land to any quack doctor who had found him not fit to work. Thus, that psychologist refused to see him. He denied that this was a direct threat of harm. He said that he meant it as a legal threat. He also makes comments regarding the police force as a tribe and is corrupt. What's wrong with that? Right. So anyway, going back to that, lay law to the land.
I included that whole text in the post that I posted up. If you want to look at it.
Oh, wait.
You want to skip right to it.
So but explain that to people who didn't watch that that podcast.
So 2 or 3 days after I go to internal affairs, all right. Me and this woman have a kid together. We both love dearly. And It appears as though all these years of me thinking that she really is a hard ass, because she certainly behaves like one and is a tough girl and independent woman and all this bullshit that's always coming out of her mouth, right? And I bought into it, right? I thought she was tough, but apparently she's not, because she's caving to these people, these morons. All right. Louis Venturino, guy you wouldn't pee on if he was on fire. Mueller, a guy who everybody who's ever had a 10-minute conversation with him knows he's completely out of his mind. He is the police commissioner, I get it, but
not to go into a thing, but don't ever think that about a woman again.
What? Oh, that what?
Sometimes they have to put that. Yeah, they have. That's a wall they put up.
Well, so I text her this, and it's basically what I'm trying. The point I'm trying to make is, look, the facts are the facts in this one. This is they can't win in the long run. They can make all these moves, terminate me, make it tough to pay attorneys and things like that. But the facts are the facts, and you're in with them. As long as you keep cooperating with them, you're going to be in as much trouble as they are. So I'm trying to tell her, please stop conspiring with these people. I have my own way of doing it. This is just our lingo, her and I. This is just the way we talk to each other. If you want to read it, it's pretty good. I thought it was pretty funny. But you have to understand, like, this is not just a text I'm sending to any normal person. This is my extraordinarily hostile and fiery daughter's mother. And this is the way we talk to each other. So that's not the first page of it.
Oh.
But that's, yeah. So if you want to look at the specific comment.
All right, you want me to read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Obviously, my days of being candid with you in text are over, but things have not quite gotten completely out of control yet, and this will end very badly for many people if they do. That sounds like a threat, right? So it's important that they say this to you now that your temper tantrum has subsided and they've thrown the kitchen sink at me, but came up short. As I said to you months ago when I redacted.
Yeah, I have to redact. I had to redact what was there because it can get her and some other people down at the detective division in trouble, and I'm not looking to go to war.
I can't foresee a situation where I would ever jam up my daughter's mother. I meant that even now. Everybody around me is disgusted with you and wants their pound of flesh. But I've told them all that I forgave you the second you did this, because unstable people having lots of autonomy is a bad trend in this country. And what you did here is just the kind of thing that they do when they are permitted to make all their own decisions. The people that you conspire with are all going down if things are not on the up and up with whatever quack they're sending me for a duty fitness evaluation. So you sent this before you went to see the psychologist. Right. If things are on the level, the doctor will tell them this guy's not crazy. He's pissed off. He's intelligent, and he's got balls down his effing knee. My attorney, maybe that's why you had that prostate medication, right? My attorneys and a handful of retired guys I've retained as legal advisors are going to lay waste to the valley if the doctor doesn't approve me to return to duty in the same capacity that I had before. If I don't get my guns back, or if Venturino isn't equally punished for the threat that he made in the voicemail. I forgive you because you, where was I at? Because you threw your lot in with these people, not realizing that they're all mediocre. They're simpletons. I use that word sometimes, and they're in the past.
Great word.
They're outmatched on this one. They've pulled a Pearl Harbor and awakened the sleeping giant, and their midway is. Does she understand all this? Because I'm not saying that she's not smart, but I'm just saying, I talk sometimes like the people like, what are you talking about? It's a history stuff. Pearl Harbor, and they've awakened the sleeping giant, and their midway, right? I love that movie, by the way. Is notes 19 and coming if they bought the doctor like they bought the CLS president. I'm asking you to realize who is the future. For bank's sake, stop conspiring with these people now. They all have, that's all I have to say.
Right. So, everyone knows what Pearl Harbor was. Most people know what the sleeping giant quote was. I mean, do you? If not, I'll explain it to you. But most. Oh,
yeah, man, I know what that means. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So most people do. The doctor this quack apparently didn't. But if you want to go back to that previous page, we'll take a look at what he's misquoting from. He basically to the text.
Oh, okay.
The previous page on the text. Right there. So all right, so down at the bottom.
And you said valley, not land. So there's some discrepancies in the.
Well, but I mean, just look at what I'm saying. My attorneys and the handful of retired guys I've retained as legal advisors. In other words, the guys who know my mother's playbook and are helping me.
Right.
Okay, are going to lay waste to the valley if the doctor doesn't approve me. Blah 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 blah. Well, what is it that lawyers are doing when they're laying waste to somebody's valley?
Right. So it's
Are
obvious
lawyers in
that
the
you were
business
talking
of
about your
violence?
attorneys.
Yeah. So are lawyers in the business of violence for hire? Am I talking about physically hurting people? No. But when I get wind that they're sending her to file a family offense petition, I sent an email to Hodges, courtesy copied Internal Affairs, and I let them know in it that I had this recording with the receptionist, telling me that Mueller had ordered the initial appointment to be canceled. We did that whole podcast. So they're fudging the appointment to make sure that the family offense petition can appear in this report. And I caught them doing it. Now, I told them that I had a recording. Barbado emailed me back and said, can you give us a copy of that recording? Now, I'm no idiot. I'm not going to let them study it and try to figure out how to discredit it. So I said, just talk to my attorney, Cap, if you want something from me. And he never gets back to any of us. Now, when I said that, they probably thought I was bluffing about having the recording, because up to that point, I had showed them everything that I already had. Anything that I came across that proved that they were setting me up, I showed it to them, and I basically said, hey, look, morons. Okay, but by now I had learned my lesson. They're not going to change course just because you're showing them how much proof you have. So don't give them this, is what I had in my head. Don't give them this recording.
Right.
Just tell them you have it. Now, when I tell them that they have it,
hands.
Right, they must have called the clinic and screamed their heads off at people. Why are you giving out information about canceled appointments? Now you have to cover for us to the next doctor, to the second doctor, okay? You have to tell a lie in this report about why it really was the clinic or the first doctor or whatever that canceled the first appointment. Big game.
Right.
And this is what he came up with. This line on the second page, if you want to go back to it and read it again.
Right. He wanted to make it seem that they rescheduled because they feared that you were threatening. You were making threats with that line.
First of all, even if that was the case, that's their job. So, I mean, they're forensic psychiatrists. This is what they do for a living.
Yeah. I mean, they're not going to, if they feel, he's obviously BSing. But if there's a genuine feel for threat, I can see why. But why pass you off to another psychologist, right? If you're threatening and they feel like you might physically or shoot somebody or something like that, right? They reschedule with someone else.
There was no way a threat of physical violence embedded in that comment. Absolutely no.
No, I know, but I'm saying why they should have not had you come there at all, right? That would have been the right thing if they truly felt that you were a danger like that.
Yeah, it's
right?
BS. It's BS. Yeah, no, I know. He doesn't know. He's writing this report not realizing that I really do have a recording. Yeah. That's going to discredit that line that he puts in the report and therefore, thus, the entire report. Because he's caught lying to cover for the city.
Right. I mean, I'm surprised that, you weren't already in court with this, because, you got so much here that I think that, some attorney out there would have been like, yo, let's go do this right away, man. You got something here and we're going to win here.
Yeah, well, at the time, we'll get into that. When they ultimately did suspend me without pay, my attorney effectively bailed. That's something that we'll get into in more detail down the line. But if you want to go back to that page too.
Yeah. All right. So, drugs and alcohol. Right? I read that. Child Protective Services. Read that, and we were down at the bottom there where you were talking about that. Yeah. So, and all right. He also made comments regarding the police force of the tribe and is corrupt, which I don't see what's wrong with you saying that. And he said that they wakened the sleeping giant. He said they were going to pull a Pearl Harbor on me and awaken the sleeping giant. When he asked about this statement, he said that when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, the emperor said they had awakened a sleeping giant, right? And they were referring to the United States, right? By doing that. And he referred to the sleeping giant in the case as himself. He denies any symptom of anxiety. He denies any symptoms of panic attacks. He denies any symptoms of mania, but seems to be experiencing inflated self-esteem, grandiosity, pressured speech, psychomotor agitation, excessive involvement in pleasurable activities, expansive mood, flight of ideas, and racing thoughts. Now let's stop there.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is that? What's psychomotor agitation?
You know what that is?
Pleasurable activities.
That whole big box.
Yeah, I can only imagine that.
That whole big box that I boxed off, that inflated self-esteem, the grandiosity, the pressured speech, right? I didn't catch that. I didn't really know what the hell that was either until I spoke to my OCD doctor. And he said, what that is, what he's doing, is he's spelling out bipolar disorder. He's leading himself into a diagnosis of bipolar disorder. So what I did was obviously I went to Google and I Googled symptoms of bipolar disorder, and a list popped up that was almost verbatim to that exact. You doing it?
Yeah, I'm going to show if I got it here. You know.
So he doesn't elaborate on anything he says there. He just lists them. He rattles them off like a list. So this way,
he doesn't give any reasons why he believes that. There's no examples of.
So he could just say I'm bipolar at the end of the report.
Right.
And anyone who knows somebody who's genuinely bipolar, it's funny. It's laughable to say that I am, because they. Well,
I don't know if they would say it's laughable. They would say that's not something that they should be just doing like that, like anybody's just bipolar.
It's laughable to say I'm bipolar. Yeah, you can't just throw that at people. You know what I mean?
Right. You know what I'm saying? Because the people that really deal with that, and I've known people that deal with
serious,
that.
Right.
But when you can tell, because people, they go from really manic and just outlandish, and then they're really depressed and something for days, Not just because somebody gets mad in 1 minute, you know what I'm saying, and then they come. That's not bipolar.
No, they talk at a ridiculously fast pace, as if they can't help themselves. They don't sleep.
That's like also narcissism. Right. Like people like to throw that out there. Oh, he's narcissistic, but that's a true, real disorder. Like people just have no empathy.
Right.
They just only think about themselves. Everything they do is with themselves in mind. They talk over you. They're never wrong. Oh man, that's crazy. I'm trying to find anyway, but. Yeah, that's obviously what they want to do, right? Because he doesn't give any examples, so they're just trying to set you up to be a person with bipolar disorder. Right. But they never diagnosed you as that, right? They never gave you some kind of diagnosis.
He did. You'll see at the end of the report, yeah.
Oh, so he actually diagnoses you in this report as bipolar?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. All right, so I'm going to go on there because I don't want to keep looking up, but so they are paranoid. He reports some symptoms of thought disorder. There are paranoid thoughts about the police force being out to get him.
Let me just address that real quick. He just made all of this up. Okay, he reports some symptoms of OCD that he describes as paranoia. OCD has nothing to do with paranoia. Has nothing to do with it being a thought disorder. It's just he's just making things up. And you can ask any OCD doctor about stuff like this. I would never describe these things that way because it's just not accurate. So, that's it. He's just making shit up on the fly. So go ahead.
And they can get away with this. And I see that it's because you're not the only one that they get away with it, because a lot of people really just don't know. See, you went out and did your homework. You're like me. We're not going to just sit back and just, you know what I mean? I'm not saying anything negative or bad about anyone else. I'm just saying, but we're fiery, right? And so we're going to boom and we're also pretty smart. We do our research and stuff like that. And so, but other people that just, they don't know what to do. They have this whole system. They got these psychologists, the department, the city, like, oh shit, I'm just screwed, and they almost cripples them emotionally to even move forward. But not you, obviously. There are paranoid thoughts about the police being forced out to get him. Obviously, I mean, they are. I mean, it's obvious. We've played audio, right? They've shown plenty of evidence of that. Twisting evidence against him and pressuring the mother of his daughter, which we showed evidence of that also, to falsely accuse him of threatening accusations that put him into place. To put into place an order of protection. He believes he is going to be arrested in the near future for false allegations. He believes one. And listen, without saying too much, there are people that have been threatened to be arrested here in the city of Yonkers just for asking questions about things that they should be asking questions about. So I believe that. He believes one of the major detectives is out to get him and is a made man working for the mafia. Well, which mafia? Be specific. Which crime family you say? There's 6 crime families actually, right?
By calling Louis a made guy, this idiot is saying that I actually believe he's in the actual real mafia.
Right. But you do believe that he's in the mafia, right? You call it.
Well, he's in the Spano crime family.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So
it's an analogous.
That's what you say. That's funny, yeah. That's very funny. That's what I'm saying. Me reading this, knowing you now, I would laugh because I know you, right? And I guess that's what you mean when people who know you and the mother of your daughter know you, the two of you, and they read this stuff, they'll laugh, right? That's like what you said because they know your personalities. So I think it's funny. He believes he is going to be arrested. I read that. Sergeant Venturino, whom he believes is out to get him and getting other police officers and the mother of his daughter to file false allegations against him. This has been going on for some years. There was a text that was, well, this hadn't been going on for some years, right? This just started that night of that incident.
No, I mean, the gun drop, this whole incident, it would happen on December 30th. On December 29th, I was a rock star. Flying through the ranks, John Muller loved me, thought I was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Right.
And then all hell broke loose on the 30th.
There was a text that was apparently dated 2014 where he says that if the department continues to act in a corrupt manner, he would engage in what he calls scorched earth tactics, which is a military term when Googled means to burn and scorch anything your enemy could use against you, such as ammunition, guns, food, and housing, including items that you own that could be used against you. He denied any other symptoms of a thought disorder. He denies any cognitive deficits. Reason for referral: the employee was referred for this fitness.
Let me just, if I can,
right, go ahead,
I want to explain what he just said in that paragraph about this text containing the term scorched earth.
Hold on, okay. Let me just look at this comment. I have followed the podcast since the very beginning. None of this makes any sense. Why take a decorated lieutenant off the street over a gun drop and a voicemail? Taking the good guys off the street and leaving the bad ones who don't want to do the job makes no sense. Yeah, that's true. Exactly.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Yeah, right. So so he asks me, he has this stack of text messages that are apparently printed out, and he's just banging them out, going through them. Didn't say a word about any of the emails that I sent out or anything like that. I tried to bring them up. Wouldn't let me turn my phone on and play the voicemail for him, anything. And he's just asking me about this stack of text messages that he has right in front of him. And he comes across apparently this one. Now, this was from 2014, so I didn't remember anything about it. Right? I don't remember every text message I ever sent.
Right.
And so he says, "What did you mean by scorched earth in this text message?" I said to him, "Well, I know what it means, but if you want me to tell you what I meant by it, you have to give me the context because I don't remember." He goes, "Oh, okay." And then he just turns over the page and goes to the next text. Completely disregarded it. Okay. I didn't tell him. What did he say? I said, all right. So he says that in that text message, I said something about the department. If the department continues to act in a corrupt manner, I'll engage in the scorched earth act.
Right.
Now, when I went back and looked at this text, and the city has this text, okay, it's in the internal affairs reports. What we're talking about has nothing to do with the department. We're talking about our personal business. She's threatening to take me to court, basically for child support. Now, in military terminology, scorched earth just means that if you're losing a battle and you have to retreat, you basically ruin all of your own resources that you have to leave behind, that you can't take with you. And you do that so that an advancing enemy can't make use of your resources that you left behind. That's called scorched earth. Very spooky phrase, right? But it's also applied in the financial world. Okay? Financial warfare, companies taking each other over, things like that. When a company is about to be taken over by another company and they don't want it to acquire its assets, it will sell them off at fire sale prices.
Right.
It'll basically destroy itself so that it, so that some bigger company treating it like a wounded animal wants to eat it.
That's done in hostile takeovers and stuff. Yeah.
Right. And if you look on Investopedia, this is actually a defined term, scorched earth, used in the financial sense. And when I looked at the text message, I realized that was the context in which I was using it. What I was basically telling her was, go ahead, try to take me to court. I'll quit my job. I'll blow all my money. I'll go to the blackjack table. I'll keep hitting on 21 until I just lose all my money.
And right? So why didn't you just say it like that?
Because this is just what she and I do. I was never worried about her going and showing people. And you got to see some of the things that she said to me. You know what I mean? And it's just our cadence.
Well, are you ever going to show some of that? I mean, just to give people an idea of what you know.
No, I as I said when I posted this stuff the other day, I said I've kept the policy of not showing text messages between she and I, and I'm going to keep that because that's not going to do anything to better the relationship that I have to have with her on a daily basis to raise our kid together. So go ahead. People can think what they want. Sometimes when I'm writing things, I forget that not everybody understands these things. I was in the military. I watch the History Channel all day long, every day. Right. So I understand what scorched earth means, but a lot of people don't. So, spooky phrase, and now it can be used against me to make me sound like I'm out of my mind.
Jones says you like metaphors.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he likes violent metaphors.
Military metaphors.
Lay law to the valley, scorched earth.
Yeah, right.
Awaken a sleeping giant.
I watch too much American Heroes channel. That's for sure.
Well, I guess that's what you get, right? You're a military guy, you're law enforcement,
Right.
but you don't have any aggressive, violent history, right? You don't have
None.
anything like that. That's what I mean. Like they say that about me because I can be tough. I can be, listen, I don't let no one mess with me, right? But that doesn't mean I go out and beat people up or just be violent all day. I have zero history of that, right? The employee.
Now we really starts getting wild. If you want to.
The reason for referral: the employee was referred for this fitness for duty evaluation by City of Yonkers Police Department. A review of records provided by employer, the City of Yonkers Police Department, included multiple emails to people such as Justin Barbado, Ralph how you say that?
Carosa. He misspells almost every name in there. Carosa.
Charles Walker, Dominic Monaco, Vince Vinny Castelli. Daniel Campanini and Michael Koch. These emails.
I wish he would have put breadstick in there.
Michael,
breadstick Campanini.
These emails range in dates from 2019 to 2020. Also, there are multiple texts between himself and the mother of his child, a police officer who was involved in the reason for referral, Detective V. According to the police force, these texts were used on their police phone and they were monitored. These records suggest the following events took place.
Completely made up. That because we both had a department cell phone at the time.
Right.
She obviously still has hers, but
so completely made up. Your personal cell phone.
Absolutely. He just completely made that up out of thin air. I never sent not one text to anybody on my department cell phone. Never sent nor received not one text. Hardly ever made a phone call on it. Okay. He just completely made it up because what he's trying to do is to say, he's trying to shed light. He's trying to steal light away from the fact that she was pressured into doing this.
Right.
Right. And he wants to make it sound like, it was all just discovered randomly by random monitoring of their department phones.
This is crazy to me. I mean, and like Michelle was saying, I mean, when you go to court with this right here, this is the part where everything just crumbles.
Yeah, I mean, just
completely
shit up.
It's all wrong. Okay, so show us the records from that phone, from the police. Oh, it's not there? Oh, because it wasn't that phone. Oh, okay.
Like you said about Harrod. You said he's a guy just completely makes shit up.
Yeah.
That's what these doctors do.
Yeah. They like to hire people that lie, is what it is. That are willing to lie and they don't care. Right? That's just what it is. People with no ethical compass or morals. Incident, let me read. What does it say at the beginning here? There was an incident he responded to where there was a gun drop. The mother of his child also responded to the scene. The gun was dropped between a victim and the perpetrator. He was the highest ranking officer on the scene. However, he said that the other investigators, rather than reviewing the video of the scene or waiting for him to release them, contacted someone else, a different sergeant. This sergeant released them, and Mr. DiMaggio felt that they left the scene before they were supposed to, and it was mishandled. He also stated that they did not watch the surveillance video.
Which breadstick Campanini admitted to all of that in an email. Remember, we were going through that email chain. He basically said, "Yeah, he's right."
Yeah, I mean, and we can see it in that video that you have surveillance video, copies of that. We saw exactly what happened there. The police department also says that he has engaged in numerous violations of police policies, such as writing texts and threats to the mother of his child, Detective V. Is that against a violation of the policy?
Oh, it would have been if I had done it.
Right, on department phone, right?
Oh, yeah.
She indicates that he threatened to kill her and threatened to harm her son in the text. That was the time that you were going to Hurricane, right? She indicates that he has fired his weapon while intoxicated. When asked about his statements about scorched earth, he simply said he did not remember. Now, the weapon while intoxicated, that was true?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, so why you didn't circle that?
I did on the last page, on page 7.
Oh, I got you. All right. When asked about the statements, that's good. When asked about the reference to him shooting his weapon when he was intoxicated, he said it was a rumor. Okay, and it was not true. In the text, he continues to contact her and harass her despite her efforts to ask him to stop and leave her alone. Has she, or did she?
Right. So what they were doing was they were telling her she's never done that before or since. For years before and years since, it's always been, fighting back and forth.
Yep.
Long text message, back and forth. So, yeah, I have shrinks lined up. And they know that, too. The city knows that.
And one more question. Your department phone can be foiled to prove that this is all false.
I don't know. I haven't had a department phone since, before they even terminated me. So I don't even know.
They still have those records.
Yeah, I mean, text messages, it's a myth that you can just go back and, and pull up text messages, from years ago. And so if they're in the phone, then they're there. But if they're, if they were deleted or anything, if the phone was wiped, you can't just go back into like some database and find text messages from years ago. What were we talking about? We were talking about, oh yeah. So what they were doing was they were telling her, tell him, Aunt, stop, leave me alone. Things like that. And I'm seeing right through this because this is not her talking.
So then you can actually see a pattern, right? You can see that, right? Because you don't see any of this until a certain time frame, like a certain point in time. Now it starts, right?
Brother, if you look through my phone right now, you would see her and I going back. Actually, over the last couple of months, it's been really good. Very, very minimal of it.
I think it's because of the podcast.
No, I think it's just because things were getting better between us when all this broke out. It was already as our daughter was getting older, and this is kind of the way I thought it would go. Is things were improving between us as our daughter got older. I think that will still be the pattern. But then Knucklehead Smith decided that he was just going to throw a grenade into my personal life. So
they don't care about that, man.
No, they
really
don't.
They will destroy people's personal lives, business, everything. It's really crazy.
See, there I go again with the military analogies. But yeah. So
when asked about his statement, regarding that he would hold her son as collateral if he took his daughter to Puerto Rico, he said that was a bad idea. He should not have said that, but what would befall him would befall someone else.
Just made it up. He just made it up. I had to look up what the word befall means. I don't even know what that means. When he asked me about that, I said, I don't think there's anything to talk about really, Doc. I mean, the statement is the statement. You know what I mean? You all know what the word means.
Right.
I'm a dad. That's it. And that's it. I really wouldn't talk to him, about it beyond that.
Mental status examination. He was evasive and defensive in the evaluation. Manner of relating, social skills, and overall presentation were fair. He was poorly related.
Right. That's what I love. Look, manner of relating, social skills, and overall presentation were fair. So my manner of relating was fair, but then I'm poorly related. Does that make a wink of sense? No, right? Am I the only one who thinks that's stupid? It's a total contradiction.
Manner of relating, social skills, and overall presentation was fair. He was poorly related.
Quackery clinic, bro.
Maybe he's saying you can relate to things pretty fairly, but people to relate to you is poor. Poor. He appeared his same age. He appeared your age. He was dressed casual, well-groomed. Posture was normal. That's important. Motor behavior was normal. Eye contact was appropriate. Speech fluent and clear. Adequate expressive language. Thought process marked by paranoid thought patterns and circumstantial thoughts. Right. Your thoughts are not backed up by anything, right?
Well, he wouldn't let me turn my phone on.
Effective, full range, and appropriate in speech, thought content, mood. His mood was reported as fractured and overwhelmed. Well, what does that mean? I guess you were upset.
Yeah, Yvonne, I got you on speaker, hon. I'm on the podcast. You want to talk now? Okay. You want to talk now or after?
I'll talk after.
Okay. All right. I'll call you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Miss Hackett.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Why don't you subpoena your department phone, and when they don't or can't produce it, ask why would they destroy or hide evidence?
Yeah, that could be, when this finally does go into a courtroom, that could be something that we look into.
Right.
So full range and appropriate
sensorium, orientation. He was oriented to person, place, and time. Attention and concentration intact. He would do simple calculation and serial sevens. Recent and remote memory skills intact. He identified 3 out of 3 objects immediately. Did they give you that thing where they pull up just a blotch of ink? What do you see?
No, they just tell you, remember, airplane, table, water. And then they ask you again a minute later, well, what are those 3 things I told you?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Cognitive functioning appeared to be above average. General fund of information was somewhat limited.
I don't know what that means, but
Your
see where
cognitive functioning is above average, but your general fund of for information is somewhat limited.
now you see where it says insight poor and judgment poor.
Right.
Okay, that's a common theme on other reports that this clinic is writing.
Right. Because
It's
you're
almost
making poor
automatic.
judgments. Right? That's why you would do
Right.
these things.
Yeah, it's like a cookie cutter kind of a.
And the way you perceive things and the way you see things, they're trying to the poor insight, which are paranoia, right? You
Now
see
remember, look
things
at
a certain way.
at the top of page 5 where it says a full range and a full range and appropriate in speech and thought content. Appropriate in speech and thought content. If I'm having paranoid thoughts, then am I appropriate in thought content?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's
It's contradictory in a lot of areas.
and appropriate in speech. If I'm having pressured speech, which is a symptom of bipolar disorder that he listed a couple of pages ago, then am I appropriate in speech? I don't get it. Someone's going to have to explain these things to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, he was trying to combine truth with lies, right? And that's what he was doing. But what it does ultimately, it just looks like it's a poorly prepared report that doesn't make sense because it contradicts himself in a lot of areas.
I think that what he probably did was he just opened up a report that he had saved that had been written for somebody else and just changed things around. To be honest with you,
could be. Maybe he has like a template already and just, adds your name to it.
Because
All
at
right, we're
one
going to
point
give
he
this guy
says,
OCD and bipolar disorders and schizophrenia and everything else.
right. Well, I told him about the OCD, so he sprinkles that in.
Well, not the OCD, but yeah, but the
diagnosis.
other shit.
He says he diagnoses me with OCD as per my own report. So,
test results: a standardized personality measure, the Minnesota multiphasic personality inventory. Yeah, correct. The second edition restructured form, I'm going to read that, was administered. The test scores on the MMPI, I have to read anyway, IIRF, validity scale, raise concern about the possible impact of unscored responses and underreporting on the validity of his protocol.
I don't know what the hell that means.
Yeah, and then he doesn't. I noticed some grammar is incorrect. With that caution noted, scores on the subscales indicate thought dysfunction, dysfunctional thinking, and ideas of persecution. Because you're Jesus, you think you're Jesus. Blasphemous. But it's contradicting again. Thought dysfunction, dysfunctional thinking. But then he says he was oriented to person. So when was your dysfunctional thinking coming into attention and concentration is intact.
He says, well, he's going to get to what he's saying about the ideas of persecution. Because remember, I told you this MMPI thing, this, it's a standardized personality measure, the Minnesota multiphasic, whatever. What it is, it's a series of 400, 500 silly little statements that you have to put either true or false on a Scantron sheet.
Yeah.
One or two,
personality.
A or B, right? So it's like I get anxiety in crowds. Okay, no.
This you know what it is? You know what he's doing here? This is a very what you call it, common diagnosis. Generalized personality disorder, right? And that has different things with that. And that's what it looks like to me, that he's trying to, you have a personality disorder, right? Among other things.
Well, so those are bread and butter. Yeah, right.
Yeah. He reports significant persecutory ideation, such as believing that others seek to harm him. He is likely to be suspicious of and alienated from others, to experience interpersonal difficulties as a result of suspiciousness and a lack of insight. He did not answer the following items. I brood a great deal.
Brood. I didn't know what brood meant.
Abroad. A brood. I thought I need a new context, I think. Or maybe I'm getting old. He said he did not know what brood meant. I don't either. What does that mean? He did not understand the question. There is fullness in my head, or he hears noises most of the time.
No.
He did not answer the question. Once a week or often, I become very excited.
Let me explain. He did not understand the question. There is fullness in my head, or he hears noises most of the time. That is not what it said. Okay. What it said is there is fullness in my head or nose most of the time. Hadn't said nothing about noises. Now, I didn't know what fullness meant. What does that mean? I have fullness in my head or nose. I don't know what that means, so I'm going to leave it blank. Okay.
You said it's stuffy.
Now, yeah, right. What does it mean? I don't know what it
And
means. So I'm not going to answer it.
Brood.
Right. Now, but what he does is he changes the statement to make it sound like I left something blank that asked me about hearing noises. Makes it look like, oh, if I'm asking, if they're asking me about hearing noises, I don't want to answer that because I must really be hearing noises. Like he's trying to make me sound like a lunatic. It said nothing about hearing noises, and I have the printout. I have the it's in his file on me, on the Scantron sheet.
So did he tell you what brood meant? What brood meant? Did he ever tell you? Did he rephrase the question?
To like stir, to like think, to stir about something, to think about it,
to kind of
to a point that's almost ridiculous, and you can't.
Well, yeah, it drives you to anxiety. To
I looked that up after, and I don't know. I mean, no, I don't brood a great deal. No, what does that even mean? I mean,
yeah. So, well, meaning that you just you have this reoccurring thoughts over and over that just it's almost like if you're
I'm a thinker.
Schizophrenic.
I'm a thinker if that's what he's asking, but I don't know what that means. So I didn't answer it.
Yeah, you are a thinker.
Right.
To brood, to think anxiously or gloomingly, right? About ponder, right? So because you are a thinker, I'm a thinker too. Honestly, I love to stay up at night because everything is silent and I'm allowed to, even cars driving or whatever. I love to think at night, but that doesn't make you crazy though. Makes you just thinker.
Right. So
most of the time he didn't answer the question. He said he doesn't get excited. And that's not a bad thing, right? He should, but he does not know if it's once a week.
Yeah. So the question is, once a week or more, I get excited. Next, Skip. I don't know what does that even mean? I get excited.
Yeah, it depends on the week, man. Some weeks I can have a bad week, and some weeks I can have a great week and get excited all the time. It just depends how my wife is feeling.
It was a stupid question. I felt it was beneath me to answer it, so I didn't even answer.
He did not answer the item that people are saying insulting or vulgar things about me. He thinks people are, but he did not want to answer because it would seem paranoid.
And so again, that's people not the answer that I gave him.
Yeah, well,
that's not the answer that I gave him.
But people are, right? I mean, you have the audio that he didn't want to listen to.
So what I said to him was, I said, I left that blank because the only thing I know for sure is that I'm being spoken about. I don't know what they're saying. I don't know if they're saying vulgar things. Probably are, but I don't know that for a fact. So I didn't answer it. I just left it blank.
There are some,
because I know, because Todd just told me they were talking about me.
I mean, I'm sure they were. Yeah. I mean, who don't think they? There are some critical responses of ideas of persecution. He responded true to, I believe I'm being plotted against. He responded true to, I'm sure I'm being talked about. He responded false to, I have no enemies who really wish to harm me. He responded true to, somebody has it in for me. When asked about these questions, he said the police force is corrupt and is out to get him. They have pressured and are manipulating the mother of his child to falsely accuse him of threatening to hurt her and her son. The MMPI IIRF suggests diagnostic consideration of disorders involving persecutory ideation.
Right. Now, I didn't say that I didn't tell him that the police force is corrupt. I said this handful of low-life white trash misfits running the department is corrupt. Okay? Oh, they're corrupt. This is John Mueller. This is the clown face creep we're talking about now.
Right.
The mayor made him the police commissioner.
He seems unable to have any understanding of family dynamics where parents are separated and non-custodial parent misses seeing his or her child. Yeah, that's the truth that we can't, we have to understand there's, the dynamics at play here, and we can't judge people, right? Everybody's relationship is different, and, that's life. We're humans, but, again, you don't have a history of any violence. I mean, you've never been arrested for it, like you've never been physical.
No. And he doesn't have an understanding of anything, even if he was the brightest guy in the world, it doesn't matter. He's paid to do a job. They keep this clinic in contract. They awarded this clinic a contract. Remember, this is an Albany-run clinic. It's headquartered in Albany, right? That's what the woman told you when you walked in.
I wonder if they have a contract with Empire Strategic Planning.
That would be interesting to know too. But
gotta look that up.
So they awarded this clinic a contract, and they didn't award them a contract in exchange for their honest opinions.
Right.
They awarded them a contract in exchange for loyalty, in exchange for doing their bidding that they need done. When they need to try to protect themselves using Article 72, they need into Article 72. Okay, so they order up the diagnosis, they order up that word that we're going to get to on the bottom there in a minute, and how the doctor gets there, they don't really care. And this, so when the doctor knows what the diagnosis is going to be, he doesn't put any effort into the narrative. He doesn't put any effort into concocting a narrative that's coherent and makes sense, because it doesn't matter to the city.
Yeah, you could tell he was straight railroading you, right? He had an agenda, and he was going full forward with that.
Right. If you want to continue their mode of living, we're almost done.
Mode of living, adequate self-care and hygiene. He cooks and prepares food. That's good. Cleans, does laundry, shops, manages his finances, drives, and takes public transportation all on his own. Yeah. He is a normal human. He denies any difficulties. He reports socializing with friends, watching TV and sports. Family relationships are reported as good. He reports his hobbies and interests include reading and writing. He likes long walks on the beach. He spends his day working, staying at home, going to the gym, and spending a lot of time on this case. So, ladies, he's available if you're interested. Don't mind the other stuff there.
So now we get down to brass tacks. Now we get down to brass tacks, right? Diagnosis.
Oh, okay. You want to go on, and if you want to say anything about that. Diagnosis: paranoid personality disorder with narcissistic and antisocial traits. And just to be honest, I can see them diagnosing you that way easily. But I probably would get the same diagnosis if I were you. Rule out delusional.
I'm not antisocial.
No, and for somebody who's very social, I like to be alone. That's that's
weird.
Like to be alone? Yeah, I do. I like to kind of be alone. For somebody who's very social.
Man.
Rule out delusional disorder, unspecified bipolar and related disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder per his report. Medical diagnosis reported by employee, none. Fit for duty recommendation. Return to work is not recommended.
There it is. That's the turnkey. That's the Article 72 turnkey. That's the word that the city is buying.
Sometimes paranoia is just having all the facts. William S. Burroughs. Right. Rationale from recommendation. Based on the above examination, and by the way, how much time did you spend with this guy you were saying total before this report was produced?
About 25 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
So this man in 25 minutes just took away your career.
Well, yes and
no. You know what? You're not crazy. That guy's not. Anthony DiMaggio's not crazy. And I'll tell you why. Because if you were crazy, you would have killed him. So the guy's still alive. He's not crazy, because that's crazy. 25 minutes he spent with you, and he did this entire report.
Yeah, because why you're not doing a real evaluation.
No, I know, but at least pretend. Give him an hour.
Right. So why? Yeah, right. You're right. Right. Why waste time in there? Life is short. Why do you want to spend extra time with me if you don't have to?
I got to get to lunch. Me and Mueller are going to have lunch after this, I'm going to tell him how it went. That's crazy. Wow. Based on the above examination and the results of the MMPI, IRF, and his emails and texts, they suggest that he is paranoid, hostile, agitated, and aggressive. He has made direct threats to harm the mother of his child, to anybody who interferes with his return to work, to harm the non-biological child of his mother. And by the way, that's not true, obviously, because you have not hurt anyone who interfered with you returning to work. No one's been injured because of it. So that was not true.
I've had my shotguns back for a year.
And no one's been anything, physical, nothing. So they are wrong there. There are vague threats of harming the doctor who evaluates the fit for duty. Let me make sure I started for that. What I said, they are vague threats of harming the doctor who evaluates the fit for duty to the police force in general, such as waking the sleeping giant and suggesting he may engage in the scorched earth tactic. There are indications that he has fired his weapon while intoxicated.
That might be my favorite line in the whole report.
What indications?
Yeah, exactly. There are indications, but then doesn't list them. Doesn't write them in the paragraph, right? So imagine if prosecutors had that easy of a time. Your Honor, but there are indications that the defendant committed the crime. Oh, well, shit. In that case, let's just lock him up and throw away the key.
Wait, you're telling me there's indication? Okay, guilty.
Yeah. Well, that changes everything, doesn't it?
This is a fucking, excuse me, this is a joke. This is really a joke. I mean, my wife is an LMSW. I mean, she's got all kinds of certifications. I mean, I've even worked in, this field for many years before doing what I did. So this is a joke. This is really a joke. This is crazy. You're going to crush him if you get some lawyer that's not a punk right?
My OCD lawyer, my OCD doctor was laughing at this report, man. He goes,
Yeah, I can see why. I mean,
he
I'm
goes, how
not,
many times you see this guy?
this is
Once.
that's why I asked you how long did you spend with
Yeah.
him. That's exactly why I asked you that. His harassment to the mother of his child is documented multiple times in text. He continues to antagonize and harass her in numerous texts. He does not heed to her efforts to ask him to not contact anymore. You guys are still contacting each other, engaging each other. This led up to an order of protection of a stay away order between his child and the mother of his child. He has court coming this Tuesday. He appears to have symptoms of bipolar disorder, lack of insight, and paranoid ideations. He has been somewhat defensive and aggressive. I mean, can you blame the guy? He's violated multiple police policies, such as sending texts back and forth on police phones, to which they had no records of that, to the mother of his child regarding their personal disputes. He is being treated by psychiatrists. He says 4 times a year. Oh, he says 4 times a year for symptoms of OCD. Other recommendation: individual psychological therapy, anger management, more intensive psychiatric treatment. For what? He doesn't specify for what.
Well, this is maybe the most important thing you're going to see in this document. What he's recommending is counseling. Do you see where it says termination? Do you see other recommendations? Termination, get rid of them? No.
Right.
So now
he did say you're not fit for duty, but not to terminate you.
Right. Go to counseling,
right,
which is a standard operating procedure. Actually, standard operating procedure normally is you just put the guy on the desk.
Did you ever have an antipsychotic and mood stabilization medication? And were you ever evaluated for those medication, antipsychotic and stabilizing mood medication?
I never did any. I never did any of the things. I was willing to. I expressed my willingness to do everything that he said I should do.
And what did he mean by intensive psychiatric treatment? I mean, when I think of that, I think of shock treatment, right? Let's shock.
Yeah, you think of straitjackets and padded
rooms,
right? Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
See, so that's vague. That's very vague. Individual psychological therapy. The only thing I can see is seeing a psychiatrist. That's anger management, obviously, for the anger. But the intensive psychiatric treatment, I don't understand what that means. An evaluation for antipsychotic and mood stabilizing. The evaluation, the above.
I don't
mentioned,
know either. Right.
But the above mentioned. I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, it's just.
I'll finish that real quick. We'll go back. The above mentioned employee was examined for a consultative examination. No doctor-patient relationship exists or is implied by this examination. So he basically, we don't have any real relationship. We spat with him for 25 minutes and said this guy's crazy. He's not fit for duty. So here you go, guys. Do what you want now.
So what I also sent you was is a 4-page stipulation that they sent me. Because what they do is they get the report, and like I said, they slap down an agreement in front of you. They email it to your attorney, and they say, "Now you're going to sign this. We have your career. We have your career's head in the guillotine. We got our hands on the rope. All we have to do is pull the cord, and you're going to sign this, or else we're going to do it."
So you know what? Really quick, I'm gonna just play. Oh my God, a full psychological report to determine any of this usually takes 6 hours over 3 sessions. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I said that. That's why I asked you that. How long did they say they spend with you? So what I'm seeing here is that this was never intended to go anywhere. This report, right?
Nope.
They assume this guy's gonna sign right away. This is all
1,000%.
we do. They don't even know what to do past this point. Right, they don't know what to do with you because they don't know. They never had to go past that point. And you and I know we've had conversations about other individuals. Other individuals were not like you, right? They didn't do what you did. They were willing to play the game, right, with them. So how many people were willing to do that, right? And then until it was too late, and they realized, oh wait, maybe but you weren't. So it's like, okay, this didn't scare him. Now we got this stupid report.
I personally know of a few people. I won't mention their names. The problem with this was, you see, if he had never taken it to the point of sending her to family court, as an extra precaution to make it all look real, even him in his insanity probably didn't do the math because COVID had already started up.
Yeah.
Okay. Things were closing. It was going to be a matter of weeks before the family court closed, like everything else was closing. So when he sent her to put this order of protection into place that kept me away, not only from her, which I didn't care about, but also from my kid. Okay. I couldn't get that. The courts closed almost immediately after that. So I couldn't get that resolved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Usually
that
they'll
was a
get you
big
into
issue.
court and they'll resolve it so that you can get back to seeing your kid again. I was seeing her once a week.
Yeah, that was a big issue with a lot of custody,
Right.
cases, like because of COVID. Really,
Now,
return to work is not recommended unless, of course, you give up your rights to litigate. So you are only unfit if you don't sign on the dotted line.
So basically, that's what they want. They leverage it
Yeah.
quite improperly. And it's all a desperation play from Mike Spano because he can't have this coming out about this. I got a million names for John Mueller. All right, about the clown face creep.
I wonder if any of the doctors at that clinic have their own practice.
So it took 4 long, quiet, peaceful months of John Mueller being the police commissioner, but he's at it again. He's doing it again. All right. And now it's a real problem because he's basically been warned once by the courts. And, so let's take a few minutes. We might as well. We're an hour and 20. If you want to take 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, let's take 10 minutes, wrap it up at an hour and a half. So if you did sign, what were they going to do? Throw out the report?
Well, let's take a look at the stipulation.
Hold on 1 second. Let me pull it up.
It's 3.5 pages long. We can read through it pretty quickly. People will get the idea. I did write a few things and notes into it so that can guide people a little bit to understanding it.
See if I can get it down.
Oh, and by the way, 2 days. I got this on a weekend. They mail it to you. For some reason, they don't want to email it to you, return you, or anything like that. They mail it to you overnight, like priority mail. You got to sign for it and all that shit. And they did that to me on a Saturday or a Sunday in mid-February, right? 2 days later, she and I had our first family court appearance and our second family court appearance, I believe. First or second. Either way, whichever number of family court appearance it was, 2 days after I got this on a Saturday, we had a family court appearance on a Monday. And guess what she knew?
What's that?
She knew that I failed the psychological evaluation, right? So if it's not a conspiracy, if I'm imagining all this, how did she find that out? Basically,
that's what happens. That's
right.
What happens with people that are involved. That's where you know how many? There's about 2 people that messed up like that, involved in some corruption shit, trying to hurt people, and so they got this plot and they do things that you be like, well, how did you know about that? You messed up. You guys, you messed up doing that, right? Like filing FOIA requests. How do you know that was there?
She's scratching Mueller's back by filing the family defense petition so he can give the doctor ammo to fail me, right? And now he's scratching her back by making sure that I failed the evaluation and then telling her about it so that she can try to subpoena the report in the family court. So this is what they do. All right. This Dusan guy works for Corporation Counsel, emails my attorney and says, okay, now I'm emailing you a stipulation. Okay. And you have to let me know if you're going to sign it, if your client's going to sign it. My attorney reaches out to me and, oh, yeah, they want you to sign the stipulation. Here, I'm going to send it over to you. Take a look at it. I said, how about this? How about I don't take a look at it? Tell douchebag or whatever his name is up at Corp Counsel to stick it in his ass. I'm not signing anything. How about that? Okay. I know what they want and they're not going to get it. He goes, yeah, I figured you would say that, but at least look at it. So
let's read it here.
Yeah, go ahead.
A stipulation of agreement by and among the city of Yonkers, here referred to as the city, Anthony DiMaggio, referred to as employee, standard contract language, the employees employed by a city as lieutenant, whereas the city and the captain's, lieutenant, and sergeants association, known as the union or CLSA, moving forward, are parties to a collective bargaining agreement, CBA, providing terms of conditions of employment for employees of the city holding the rank of inter alia lieutenant. And whereas on or about February 2020, the city, by and through the YPD, referred employee for a fitness for duty psychological evaluation to be conducted through Industrial Medicines Associates. Oh, okay, that's good to know. I know the IMA stands for. Located in Hartsdale. And whereas on or about February 14th, a medical professional at IMA, who did the worst report I've ever read, conducted a psychological evaluation of employee, and upon that to work was not recommended for the employee based upon the medical reasons detailed in the FDPE. Please see the Human Resource Medical Personnel file. Whereas on or about February 24th, employee was placed on administrative leave, and further on or about February 29, 2020, employee notified YPD that he is on sick, and it is hereby agreed by and among the city and employees as follows. Employee agrees to attend any and all medical and / or psychological fitness for duty evaluations and or independent medical examinations at the direction of the YPD or the city's Department of Human Resource, which I wrote a letter to that guy, Carlos Moran, 2 days ago. Employee agrees to follow and fully comply with and meaningfully participate in any medical and or psychological course of treatment recommended by a medical professional, which they hadn't done. Employee agrees to inform the YPD and keep the YPD immediately appraised of his compliance and with good cooperation with any and all courses of treatment recommended by a medical professional. Employee's obligations pursuant to this clause include, but is not limited to, providing city YPD with any and all reports or documentation concerning the employee's cooperation, participation, and attendance in any course of treatment recommended by medical professional necessary.
Now, where are you? Are you?
I'm down number 3. Medical professional necessary to enable the commissioner of human resources and or his police commissioner to make a. Oh, I gotta shrink it down now. Oh no. To make a determination as to when employee is complying with the terms of the agreement. Employee agrees to execute any release necessary, including a release pursuant to the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act that will enable the city to determine whether employee has complied with any recommended courses. So they're basically asking that they can, see your medical records, right? Is that what that means?
No, that's what that basically is about. Yeah. So I think what that's primarily about is they want me to waive my HIPAA rights to have the report protected.
Right.
To have the reports that the clinic is going to write up. So in other words, they want me to go back to counseling back at that clinic, and I have to agree that I'm going to sign any HIPAA releases that allow that clinic to send reports over to the department. Right.
Employee acknowledges that he is not permitted to return to work unless authorized to do so in writing by the YPD police commissioner and also authorized in writing by a city-approved medical professional, which would be IMA. If employee does not fully comply with any of the conditions set forth above, the city may immediately place employee on unpaid leave pursuant to Section 72. This whole shit right here, excuse my language, I'll tell you in a second, is wrong. 72.5 of the New York State Civil Service Law, as permitted by CSL 272.5, employees may initially utilize any accrued leave upon being placed on CSL 72.5 leave.
Right.
I'll stop there.
Right. Now, here's the thing. So that's condition number 6, right? If you don't agree to anything above, and it says above, then we're going to suspend you without pay. We're going to invoke Article 72. Here's the thing. I did agree to everything above. 1 through 5, I said I was pretty clear. I was as clear as I could be. Sure, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Counseling, sure. Just tell me.
I think they wanted that now in writing, right? And this contract was in writing, and this would be
in
writing.
Well, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, they're going to, when they suspend you, when they ultimately suspended me without pay, it wasn't because I wouldn't agree to the above. It was because I wouldn't agree to what was below, right? Even though that's not what it says in number 6. It says if does not fully comply with any of the conditions set forth above, yet I was willing to. Now, if that's what I have in the box there on the right.
Right, and so they want to make sure that you did, and this covers them, right? Because if you go through with it, if you go through these recommended treatments and stuff, then you're complying. So by doing that, you're admitting there's an admission that that this is true, what they're saying.
Implicitly, it's sort of implied omission. Yeah, right.
Right, implied omission, right? So that takes away, a little bit of your credibility, right? And that's what they want to do. But also, what's wrong here is that if you do not comply with the conditions set forth, that you will be placed on unpaid leave. Now, that's against your violation of your rights, right? If you have psychological, mental health issues, to fire you without or put you on leave without your pay and your benefits, right, and your health insurance, because you may need to go and get medical attention for these things that they're saying you have, right? And it shouldn't have to be through their people.
Yeah.
So
Right. Well,
that's like a violation of your, rights there.
right. So let's keep reading a little bit more, and then
Yeah.
I'll explain it in a nutshell.
And in consideration of employees' agreement to and subject to employees' continuing compliance with all of the conditions set forth above, the city agrees to the following. Employees shall be permitted to remain on paid sick leave until September 6, 2020, pursuant to any applicable provisions of the CLSA, CBA, and or YPD policies and procedures, unless the YPD serves employee with a return to work order and a city-approved medical professional determines that employee is fit to return to work. And I would imagine that they would only make that determination if you were to be in their office saying, yeah, I was a little bit, being paranoid and stuff. You would have to say that. From the effective date of this agreement and until including September 6, 2020, only the city agrees not to place employee on leave pursuant to CSL section 72.5 and agrees to hold the CSL section 72.5 notice in abeyance until such date only. The items on this agreement do not waive the city's rights pursuant to inter alia section 71, 72, or 73 of CSL and or other applicable regulations or law. Employee voluntarily and knowingly waives representation by the union. That should be illegal. And instead elects to be represented by attorneys set forth below with respect to any terms and conditions of employment or relating to this agreement. So they wanted you to use their attorneys.
No. Yeah, well, they wanted me to use the union attorney. That's what that clause says, is that I'm refusing to use the union attorney because the union attorney is Chris Harold, and he's a double D boob who takes orders from the CLSA president, who was Mike Koch at the time.
Right.
Mike Koch was working for the mayor and the police commissioner.
Right.
With a pending bribe to the traffic unit. So
I'm looking at it though. I'm just looking at it from a legal standpoint. Like, this is crazy right here. This is, if you were to go in a real court where there's no corruption, the judges weren't appointed by the administration and Zahi Juris and them, they would look at what the hell's going on here. This is wrong to put you in this position right here. Totally wrong.
Yeah.
To have you expect
that's why I was so like, tell this Doosan guy. You got a couple things you can tell him from me, because we know what it is now. Now it's leverage time, right? Okay, you got this ridiculous report that you ordered up. Now you got my career in the noose, and now it's cover up time, and that brings us to number 10. Attention
employees, do not sign this ever if presented to you. This is so bad that you will win in court. Number 10, employee agrees not to judicially and or administratively challenge any of the terms and conditions set forth in this agreement, including but not limited to the filing of any grievance.
Now, what I wrote down there is important. Let's take a look at what I wrote.
Hold on, I got to bring it back. But again, so what that is strong arm tactics.
Yeah.
Strong arm tactics. What page was that? Number 2.
This third page you don't really have to read, and none of it is too important.
All right, so we'll just go back to this, and then we'll stop it there.
Right. Now this is because we've been talking, about the CJ Hackett case and cover up culture within the city of Yonkers, and particularly at the top levels of the Yonkers Police Department.
Yes.
This condition here, number 10, this is what it's all about. This is their end goal. This is why they're sending me to the doctor, so that they can leverage a failing report, right? Try to tell me you have to sign this or else we're going to suspend you without pay. And at that point, you're going to have to go through all types of hearings with judges that we control. And, so you have to sign this because it's really your best option, and you shouldn't have to sign it. But, this condition is Mayor Spano's end goal. It's the sunlight blocker. It's the cover up clause. They hide it at number 10 to make it look like it's just an afterthought. You know what I mean?
I'm going to become a lawyer.
They can't just, slap this agreement down in front of you. Oh, and item number 1, you're not going to sue us. That makes it a little too obvious that this is all a big scam, I think. So they put it at number 10 to make it look like an afterthought. Oh, by the way, just while you're at it, you're just going to voluntarily, waive your right to seek a judicial review of the entire situation.
This is wrong. This is just wrong. I mean, this is strong arm tactics. And not only that, for one, what they're basically implying is that you are mentally unfit. So if you're mentally unfit, you shouldn't be signing any contract. You're not mentally fit to sign a contract at that point anyway. Right?
Right.
So that's wrong right there. And so now they're taking advantage of you if you are mentally unfit and you are under duress and you are anxious and depressed and all that stuff.
What lieutenants do? Lieutenants sign paperwork. It's 90% of their job. So I'm unfit to go do my job and sign paperwork. But here, sign this paperwork.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So that's why I told my attorney to tell Dusan to stick it where the sun don't shine.
And you're paranoid that they're out to get you.
Right.
Of course, look at this contract.
So this is why, what did I write there? Right. So leveraging me into signing an agreement containing this particular clause under the looming threat of having suspension without pay invoked if I don't is the sole purpose of Mueller ensuring long before I ever walk into the doctor's office that I'm going to fail. Okay. Now, what I wrote there on the bottom, if the clinic returns me to even desk duty, which is the standard practice even for cops that have actually beaten their wives.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
Spano can't threaten to weapon. That doesn't get them into Article 72. If they put me on a desk, they have to keep paying me.
Empress employees have told me they visited police officers' homes where they beat their wives and they make the wives leave.
It happens once in a while. It's not a common thing.
I'm just saying.
Maybe back in the day it used to happen all the time, but it's different breed of cops now, and it's very rare. Now, certain people who work for the city, yeah.
I think they just do this to scare people. I don't ever think this is real. And has anyone ever challenged this contract that signed it?
It's real. People have signed it. Yeah, sure, because they know.
But have they challenged it in a court after signing it?
I don't know.
Yeah, this will never hold up in a court.
I don't think it would either. But here's the thing, right? So what they're saying to you is, waive all of your rights to appeal, to grieve, to sue, waive all of them, and then go for counseling that may end in the termination of your career, right? Because they're not giving me a guarantee that I'm going to get back to work after counseling. Audio for.
Right. Now I'm just saying, right.
So what they're saying is, waive all of your rights and then go for counseling up at the clinic that just took orders from us to bury you.
Right. Yeah.
You know for a fact that the clinic is covering for us about the doctor's cancel the canceled doctor's appointment. You know that they're writing what we tell them to write.
Who would sign?
Now waive all of your rights to seek review and and everything, and then go back to that clinic that is taking orders from us. I said, what do I have? Moron written all over my forehead, bro? Never gonna happen.
Like I was telling somebody this, I don't remember what I told you, but people are scared of attorneys. People are scared of these contracts like this and stuff like that. And people clam up and they just don't know what to do. So I could see people signing this, and they've probably done it so many times and they've gotten away with it. That's what I said.
Because like I said, their flow chart, the city's flow chart is, and they drag these procedures, these hearings, these negotiations, they drag them all out so that they take a full year.
Yeah.
So that if you still haven't signed anything and done everything that they wanted at the end of that year, then they just invoke Article 73, which says, well, you've been out for a year, so we're going to terminate you. Okay? You've been out for a year already. Well, why am I out for a year? That's what they did, ultimately.
Yeah. But they were going to do that even if you signed.
But why am I out for a year? I'm out for a year because you won't let the counseling process that your doctor prescribed begin until you get from me all of my rights back that you don't like that I have. Mayor Mike, that's your problem. It's your problem that you picked a screwball to be the police commissioner and that he fucked up within 4 months. That's not my problem, bro. That's your problem. You're the crook that took union cash from Keith Olsen to make the guy the police commissioner. It's not my problem, bro. It's your problem. I'm going to expose it one way or the other because the guy is dangerous. He's got to be stopped. Look what he's doing to families. Look what he's doing. My kid hardly saw me for a year because of this moron. Because you gave power to a sadistic megalomaniac, knowing that he was a sadistic megalomaniac. And that's your problem, not mine. Okay, so I'm not signing anything. I'll tell you what to tell Dusan. Okay? And now next week we'll pick it up from here. Because now this is where it really starts getting interesting. All the games back and forth between the attorneys. I'll show you emails between the attorneys, additional stipulations. I'm going to tell you about the hearing that we had in the mayor's conference room right in City Hall, how that went. A lot of stories still ahead, bro.
Well, folks, you hear that. A lot of stories still ahead. Anthony DiMaggio, I'm Freddie Vasquez.
Oh, CJ update real quick.
Yeah.
I told the family that I would give an update. So there's still the DA's office, and it looks like the brass have shut it down. They've stopped trying to get in contact with the Solieris and Miss Hackett. They're basically, it's just Stonewall Jackson with the brass right now, and probably will be going forward. They're going on this little press conference tour with the mayor all over the city, talking about everything under the sun except CJ. But there's this dude up at the DA's office, some sort of special investigator or whatever. His name is Andrew Gracia or something like that. Grascia, I think, or so, some sort of a big shot up at the DA's office. And he's still been in contact with some of these people. And he's still Stonewall Jackson about the questions that need to be answered about why this was not investigated right from go, resulting in the son and nephew of a couple of beloved retired cops basically getting a sweet deal out of all this. He's not giving them any answers, but what he is continuing to try to do is to try to scare them out of talking, right? From what I understand, he's basically trying to scare Tony Solieri out of talking to his own son about the situation. Because AJ Solieri is probably may have to testify at some point. I don't even think he's going to come to that. I think Stephen Dolan is going to take a plea deal for a couple of years. I don't think there's going to be a trial. I could be wrong. But I think that the odds of him having to testify are probably unlikely. But what they're trying to say to him is, if you talk to him about this case, the defense could use that and say, well, have you been talking to your father about this case? Did your father tell you to say this? Did your father tell you to say that? I said, Tony, just make sure that he knows not to repeat anything just because he heard you say it.
Right.
You know what I mean? He has to go on the stand and tell the truth. So if he doesn't know something for a fact on his own personal knowledge, then he can't repeat it just because you heard it from you.
Right.
And that's it. I mean, that's all you have to tell him. So I don't know. I've never met this fella, Andrew Gracia, whatever his name is. I never even heard of him before this case. From what I understand, he's not very helpful, and he's basically threatening to arrest people. Yeah, that's basically what's going on. I said, don't fall for that for a second.
So he's threatening to arrest family members and stuff?
I don't know, hindering prosecution or whatever. Complete nonsense. Complete nonsense. They're still trying to sell these people the idea that the defense is going to use things that are being said in the public forum to try to get Stephen Dolan off completely.
You know what? That's a load of crap.
Yeah.
A crock, whatever. Because they're not even trying hard to prosecute this guy. So what do you care? I mean, it's not like you really want to prosecute him, right? You're already giving up. They're like, oh, we're just going to give. He's probably going to get 2.5 years. That's what the DA said.
Precedent is, we have to make a deal with him because we do that with everybody else, or something like that. They're telling these people.
So then, what are they going to impact? Then, if they're making a deal, what are they impacting? You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense. But
the idea. So I tried to explain to Tony Solieri because they're telling him, they're telling him that if you're saying the police department is corrupt, the defense can use that. I said, but there's different types. First of all, I'm not saying the police department is corrupt. I'm saying the brass is corrupt. And there's two different types of corruption. There's corruption that they're trying to screw over the defendant. They're planting evidence against him. He didn't really do this. And the police department is corrupt in that way. If we were saying that out on these podcasts and whatnot, the defense would use that. We're not saying that. We're saying that the brass helped the defendant.
Right.
I assure you the defense is not going to talk about that. And neither is the prosecution. Because if the prosecution were to bring that up, then they'd be, sort of obligating themselves to investigate it. When they don't want to do that. So neither side is bringing this up, what we're talking about. Not coming up in the trial, I guarantee. Might come up in jury selection. Like I said, did you watch these podcasts? Were you able to form some sort of opinion before you came into the courtroom today? Things like that. And jury selection. Once the trial begins, if it begins, this is never coming up.
Interesting note. He was a detective with the MTA police from 93 to 97.
Who was?
Andrew Gracia.
Okay. All right.
Thought that was interesting. We talk about Mueller, who's over at MTA now.
Yeah.
I was told it would be in my best interest to not talk to my son anymore about the case. It was in your best interest, Tony Solieri. Oh, in your best interest in what? In that you would be arrested, or the case wouldn't go the trial wouldn't go your way.
Yeah, it sounds like an implied threat, like you're going to be arrested or something like that. I don't know. But it's, the kid is distraught. How is his father not supposed to talk to him about the situation?
Right.
I would say just stop talking to this guy, whoever he is. I don't know. Stop talking to him. Talk to your kid about it all you want. Just make sure he doesn't lie on the stand. That's it. Don't lie on the stand. Don't exaggerate. Don't say yes to a question that you're not sure of. If you're not sure, say you're not sure. Basic testimonial skills.
I hope that a lot of people watch this podcast tonight, and I hope that they hear me. If you vote for the current administration if you vote for the current Westchester County DA who's in there now, you're slapping the face of the parents of CJ Hackett, in my opinion. These individuals don't care about this family. They don't care about their son. They're not trying hard at all. And if you vote for these people, and I'm trying to make it political, but these are the individuals we got to get out, because God forbid this was to happen again. Is another family going to go through this again where they're going to cover it up again? I mean, when does it stop? Right. And that's
and there are a lot of people, close to the case, and they're starting to take the mindset of, look, I kind of just think it was bad police work. I said, well, I can guarantee it was bad police work. The point is, was it intentional or accidental? And it should be on the brass to come out and give that answer. Okay.
Right.
Don't just assume that it was bad police work and then just, let it go. Make them say that. Because it was bad police work.
Make them say we failed. We weren't able to catch him right away. We failed.
Bad detective work. It was bad investigation. Yeah, right.
There's video that shows that you can clearly see the plate.
Is there?
And so yeah. And so.
Oh yeah, well there should be. That's what I'm saying. Is that on those city cameras, there definitely should be. They should have been able to access it immediately, and that's
they have it.
Why was that not done? It's a question that needs to be answered.
I can guarantee you they have it.
And look, if they do, then they're in a lot of trouble. If they don't, then
they have it, DOJ.
They need to answer questions, brother.
Go get it, DOJ. They got it. I guarantee you they got it.
So that's it. That's my CJ update for the.
And I'm gonna say I just be that, because enough, man. I'm ready to it's it's like a revolt, man, revolution here, man. I'm ready, like back in 1776 here. We got to free ourselves from this tyranny. And
I apologize for the strong language if I use it sometimes, but you got to understand that these people are so disgusting. They really are.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's nothing else to tell them except to just go. You know what I mean? Where to go and how to get there.
Well, folks, if you want to know more about it, we have done a podcast. Anthony and I, we did talk about the case, so you can check that out. It's on the page. Anthony DiMaggio will be on next week. Finish up part 2, I guess, or 3. We may go.
This is what I was going to say is, for anybody who works for the city should really start taking an interest in this point going forward in my situation now, because now Mueller's role and everything is done. Now everything that we're going to talk about as far as my case going forward is going to be about the mayor, the attorneys, and basically just the mayor and the attorneys, what the attorneys that work for the city were advising the mayor to do, and what he was doing, the decisions that he was making, and how to try to cover this up.
I was able to obtain a copy of the motor vehicle 104 report. What's that MV 104 report?
The MV 104. Oh, you got a copy of that? The 104 MV 104 is an accident report. It's a Department of Motor Vehicles form that either the police will fill out when there's an accident, and usually they do when it's a serious accident, or any accident or that they get called to. Basically, they'll fill one out. But also people can fill one out, just regular drivers like you and me. If you get into a little fender bender and say you just do an insurance exchange with the other person,
right,
and you never call the police, you're supposed to fill out one of these. Yeah. Right. You're supposed to fill out one of these forms within 10 days and mail it to the DMV. And the cops, when they get called to a scene like this, to an accident like this, they'll write an incident report, and then immediately after that, they'll go and they'll write the MV 104. So, which is kind of redundant, but standard operating procedure. So, if you got that, that's good, Tom.
I don't know if would it say a whole lot on that report, right? I mean, I don't think it'll give much info.
I'm sure
they're going to write whatever they want.
There's probably some clues. But so, like I was saying, going forward, we're going to talk about the mayor trying to cover the rest of the story is all about the mayor trying to cover this up. And this can happen regardless of what department you work in this city. So this is not just for cops going forward. This is for anybody who works in this city.
Don't sign that contract.
If you get some dirt on them, okay, and they see a lawsuit coming, these are the tricks that they're going to pull. Doesn't matter if you work for DPW, the Parks Department, anybody. Right? They don't like to be held accountable for the stuff that they do behind closed doors. So, it's leverage time. When they see that you have some dirt and you're going to make them look bad. It's doctor time. It's stipulations time. It's suspension without pay. It's dirty tricks time. And anybody who works for the shitty, it's fitting though. The city should watch going forward. They should watch, and they should tell anybody else that works for the city to watch too. Because now is where it's really interesting.
That's true. I mean, you guys have to, be aware of this if you're not a part of it, if you're not a part of, but even then, I've had people call me who were, like, I'm tired of this shit. I don't care if I was a part of it, but yeah, folks, there you have it. Make sure you join us moving forward as we continue the story here with Anthony DiMaggio and his case. We're going to hopefully the end to a trial and then a Netflix movie and the Netflix series. I'm telling you, this all of it.
The book first.
All of it.
The book first. We got the book.
The book. It shows they had a license plate, but where the name was supposed to be is missing. Plate, but no name.
We'll talk offline, Tone. And we'll talk about it on the podcast.
They had the video. They saw the plate. They knew who it was that night. I'm telling you, that's a fact. I'm Freddie Vasquez. That's Anthony DiMaggio. That's the truth. That's a fact. They covered it up. And a police officer even said it. I won't say which one. I'm up out of here. Have a beautiful night. Yeah, that's right. That's right, folks. A police officer said that they... Yes, that's right. That's a fact. I put that on everything I love. Although I don't do things like that. I'm just saying it doesn't mean much. But that's a fact. I wouldn't say that if it wasn't a fact. And folks, it's time that we start to really speak out. Email me, politicwithfred@gmail.com. politicwithfred@gmail.com. Send me all the information. The more information I'm getting, the more we expose them. The more we end this corruption, this nepotism, the more we, assure that moving forward when incidents like this, God forbid, if they were to happen again, which they shouldn't, if we had a city where our leaders were real leaders, employees would be thinking twice before driving drunk. At the very least, they would want their job. But when they know that there's a possibility if they crash drunk, that they will be protected because others have, they're more likely to take that chance. And that's exactly what Stephen Dolan did that night because people have gotten away with it many times before. And not only have gotten away with it, but they have gotten raises. Just ask Hakeem Jamal, who crashed going the wrong way on Central Avenue after leaving what some allege with the Yonkers Brewing Company. Mr. John Rubo, owner of that Yonkers Brewing Company, where he was having a good time with the mayor and others, officials here in the city of Yonkers before leaving drunk and ending up on Central Avenue, crashing into an individual who sued. But the individual would not mention in the lawsuit that Hakeem was drunk, which I found interesting because if you're suing someone, you want to make sure that you put the fact that they were drunk, if they were drunk, as the reason that you got hit. Right. But all they put was speeding and reckless driving. Obviously, they got to him and said, hey, we don't want to add that in there. We're covering this up. Listen, you're going to get the money. There's no need for you to add that. Hey, Hakeem, here you go. $90,000 job. You know what? Your liability, your history, but we don't want to do you wrong and throw you under the bus and throw you out. So we're going to send you up to Hoku. Hoku sent them back down to Roosevelt Island, is it? And then people began to question why was he there. But again, this has happened many times before. People have gotten it covered up. And they've gotten promotions, they've gotten raises, they've gotten, good things happen for driving drunk and getting into an accident here. Not in trouble, not facing consequences like most of us would, right? And so therefore, this is going to continue to happen if we don't stop. And again, even after the incident with Christopher Hackett happened last August, employees were still going to bars, in city vehicles, drinking, getting into their city vehicle that was parked in the lot of the bar, driving an hour home or so every week after. Thank God no one was killed. But obviously, they don't care. They don't learn a lesson. So whoever's in charge of teaching them that lesson is failing. And that is why we need to change those who lead here in the city of Yonkers. I'm Freddie Vasquez. I'll be out this weekend collecting more petitions because you can never have enough. So if you haven't signed, reach out to me. I would love your John Hancock or Jane Hancock, right? We have to be politically correct these days. I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a beautiful night. Have a blessed weekend. As always, Yonkers, I love you. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for supporting. Peace out.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
I was raised in housing.
You're watching Basement Politics my dad, Freddie Vasquez. You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
By the way, folks, I'm waiting on getting an audio of our lovely majority leader, Tasha Diaz, cursing someone out up in City Hall, one of her colleagues, threatening to F them up. Yeah, that's right. You want to hear how they really talk to each other when the cameras are off? Imagine. You saw how they talk to each other when the cameras were on. It's time for change. So now I'm going to start calling it the Yonkers Ghetto Council.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
Freddie wins. Fatality.
Etiquette classes every weekend at Little Prodigies. Officials get a discount, 50% off, starting tomorrow. Join me.
Freddie wins.
I'm Freddie Vasquez. Have a great weekend.
Fatality.
No!